What's up, heroes? It is book club for August. Our book of the month this month is The E-Myth Revisited: Why Most Small Businesses Don't Work and What to Do About It by Michael Gerber. One of the first things I want to address, because I made this mistake, is that this is a very old book. It's from the 80s. So I saw E-Myth and thought it had something to do with like electronic myth, because we have like ebooks and e-readers. It has nothing to do with that. The E-Myth is entrepreneurial or entrepreneurship. So that's the first thing to get past, because for me, as soon as I saw E-Myth, I was like, oh, it has something to do with like, doing everything digitally. It has nothing to do with that. So let's look at how we're going to map out this month. So week one, what we're going to do right now is section one of the book, which is the E-Myth and American Small Businesses. Next week, we'll do part two, the Turnkey Revolution, a new view of business. And then week three, we're going to do building a small business that works. So that's the layout. Now, the book starts with basically breaking down that you are three people. And they give a little example being like, you've got the fat person and the skinny person inside you, but we're just going to get straight to it. So according to this author, as a business owner, you are actually three people. You are an entrepreneur, a manager, and a technician. And all three of these are constantly in a battle for your attention. So a couple quotes from the book. The fact of the matter is that we all have an entrepreneur, a manager, and a technician inside of us. And if they were equally balanced, we'd be an incredibly competent individual. Of course, obviously it's saying if, because none of us are. In fact, he says, instead, the typical small business owner is 10% entrepreneur, 20% manager, and 70% technician. So let's break down what that means. So the entrepreneur, that's the one why you got into business in the first place. You saw there was an unmet need in the market. You were really good at what you did, and you decided, you know what, I'm really good at this type of math. I could be a tutor, or I'm really good at real estate. I want to go out on my own. I'm a great doctor. I want to start my own practice, whatever. So the entrepreneur is the one who has these great ideas, and he talks about them being like very theory minded. This would be the person who's highly theoretical in science. Now, the manager is the sort of the overseer, the person who's super organized and wants to have all the ducks in a row. So the entrepreneur makes the widgets. The manager is the one who puts the widgets in a row. So the manager is very good at organizing. And then the technician, and this is where most of us get trapped, the technician is the boots on the ground, day-to-day grinding. The technician is the one who knows that you can only do one thing at a time, and like opens up email and spends all day on email. Whereas the manager would be saying like, no, you don't need to be doing email. You need to be doing this percentage of sales and this percentage of this and this percentage of that. The technician is the one who does the day-to-day, like in the books example, is the one who's baking the pies. And most of us get really bogged down at being the technician because we think we are the only ones who can do this the right way. So then the author goes on to explain that if you start a small business, you're going to go through three phases. They are infancy, adolescence, and maturity. And let's look at these really quickly. So infancy. Infancy is when you first decide, you know what, I don't want to work for someone else anymore. I'm really good at this. I'm going to start my own business. And a quote from the book is, being consumed by the tactical work of the business, as every technician suffering from an entrepreneurial seizure, I love that phrase, leads us only to one thing: a complicated, frustrating, and eventually demeaning job. And Michael Gerber even goes on to say, if this is the only thing you're going to do is be a technician, you're crazy doing it for yourself, because you are your own boss and your boss is basically a psychopath. You'd be much better if you just want to be a technician, go be a technician for someone else, because then they have the responsibility of all the management, the bookkeeping and the production and the packaging and all this stuff that you don't want to do. Let someone else do it if all you want to be is a technician. So let's say you go in and you are on your own and you're really good at fixing up cars. You're going to get really successful at that. And you're eventually going to get to adolescence, where you have more work than you can handle on your own. But where we all make the mistake is, instead of giving out the management tasks very consciously, we abdicate the responsibility. We say, you know what, I hate bookkeeping. I found this guy, his name is In the book, it's Harry, which is one of our morning heroes. Says like, just give all the responsibility over to Harry. Harry will take care of the bookkeeping. I hate bookkeeping. You don't even think about it. You're just like, you're abdicating. I don't want anything to do with it. And you know what? While Harry's at it, he can figure out some hiring and answer the phone and stuff. Well, the problem with this phase is at first things feel really good. You got someone else doing the bookkeeping. They supposedly know what they're doing. The problem is they're going to do bookkeeping their way, not your way. They're going to do shipping or answering the phone or whatever their way, not your way. And down the road, you're going to look around and say like, oh my gosh, like that pie isn't baked the way I want. That product isn't packaged the way that I would do it. That widget isn't made the way I want. I wouldn't sell the thing that way. And you're going to start taking back over the tasks that you had abdicated. And so now you're paying other people, but also taking on all the tasks that you did when you were in the infancy phase. So the only exit strategies here are get small. You fire everybody or they quit probably. And you just like, okay, I'm a one-man shop. That was better. Second one, and this is really ingrained in our culture right now, is go for broke. And this is what I call the IPO culture. We're just like, screw it. We're going to run this thing off the tracks. We're going to dump money into it as fast as we can and then hope that we can exit. And typically, as we all know with these IPOs, especially right now in the tech IPOs, they eventually just blow up and become nothing because there really was no substance behind them. And, we can name countless things. I worked for one. I worked for a company that all they did was sell chat software for websites. And they were making $1 million a year selling websites, chat rooms for their websites. What website do you go to now that has a chat room? Like, who would care? You don't go to Amazon.com and get in their chat room, and then go to Google.com and get in their chat room, and then go to Etsy.com and get in their chat room. But man, at that time, like everybody needed a chat room. So they were just like, hey, write it, sell it, and then, cash out. And then it's funny, Michael Gerber even says the worst case scenario is that you survive. Like you don't get small, you don't go for broke and then cash out. You just keep suffering. And now you're suffering and you're exhausted. So then the only other way is you push through it with the suffering and you develop this maturity, this business maturity. And this is how you get to the Googles and the Amazons and the Teslas. And that is that you start to create systems. And the quote from the book is, in that case, there's a standard for the business, a form, a way of being that can be translated into things to do today that best exemplify it. So you're starting to actually record, like, this is the sales process, or this is how I want that thing packed, or this is exactly how we bake the pie, instead of just abdicating responsibility to someone else. The business operates according to the articulated rules and principles. And that's what Michael Gerber calls the turnkey revolution. Stay tuned because that's what we're going to talk about next week. But a couple of things for group discussion if you're on one of our hero mastermind phone calls. And that is, first of all, what's your preeminent personality? Are you the entrepreneur? You're always thinking of these great new ideas that are sort of esoteric, but they don't have any grounding. You're constantly coming to new things. Are you the manager where you really like all your ducks in a row? Or are you the technician where you're just like, I have to do it all myself? I'm boots on the ground. I need to be the one doing everything. What is your prominent personality type? And then secondly, where are you in that business growth phase? Are you in infancy where you're just starting a new business and you do everything yourself? Are you in the adolescence phase, which is probably where most of us are, where you're trying to do it all yourself, but you're trying to offload some of it and you're really doing a bad job at both? Or have you reached maturity? Have you gotten to the point where you have all of your systems in place? And I know actually some of the heroes are really approaching maturity where they're actually putting their systems in place, creating trading videos, creating all of these different systems and having the right help in each place so that they aren't a slave to the business. So go ahead and if you're in a group, discuss or let us know below in the comments. Thanks so much, heroes, and I will talk to you soon.